back to Between the Ribs with Jonathan Morris on Florida Man Radio.
Okay, so I want to wrap this up, and I need you to put your head around this if you're not used to this type of stuff. And I know, like, during the break, Heather and I were talking a little bit, or maybe we were talking before. Anyways, my brain don't work all the time. A lot of people don't understand this, and we buy into whatever they tell us because we're like, oh, that makes sense. Cows are big, they eat a lot, they drink a lot of water. You know, too many cows are ruining our planet. What they don't tell you is if you go back to when America was first settled, there were more buffaloes than there were people. There was not a food problem. Unless you didn't want to go out and hunt and do what you had to do to survive, there were more buffalo, there were more turkey, there were more deer, there were more rabbits, there were more hogs in the wild. And now hogs were brought over when the Spaniards came over. They're not originally from America, but now they're all over America, and they're part of our American food source. The pigs were brought into America. All right. So when you go back and look, that there was no climate crisis, there was no nothing. It was food, and it was a source of food that God gave us, and there were more of them than there were of us. But now all of a sudden, because we cultivate and we grow and we raise cows on farms, and cows and buffalo are the same species, right? They're cousins, all right? And so are oxen over in India and different countries that have the big ox. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. And when you ride by a farm and you see these 1,000-pound animals, it's easy to buy into that and drink the Kool-Aid and think, yeah, that makes sense, man. It's a 1,000-pound animal, and there's a bunch of animals, and they're destroying our planet. But then you ride by a vegetable farm. If you go up west, up north and west, where the farms are like 2-mile rows, like the rows are 2 miles long.
Not 12 feet. Oh, long. Okay.
So, well,
wow.
in South Florida where I farmed, our lands, our plots, all right, we had fields, and right, so you had a field, and then you had sections, and I don't want to bore you with all that. But our fields were a half-mile long. We had some places where you could only get quarter-mile fields in, but they were a half-mile long. And on 5-foot centers, so 2 of those is 10, 3 is 15. So you go down and back, and that's pretty much an acre, okay?
Okay.
That's how it works. If you're farming like a 5-row or 10-row implement, now you're farming a couple acres with down and back. But when you think about, and I'm not knocking fuel, please don't misquote me, but if it really was about the environment, and if it really was about the climate, they would be arguing and they would be at war with the vegetarians and the vegans. Because on an animal farm, you have regenerativeness, okay? You have a cow that walks around on the ground, and he pees and he poops. He drinks water from the ground. He pees back into the ground. He has fertilizer in his poop that goes back into the ground. And if you don't have a multi-species farms where like you have chickens running behind cows, scratching and scattering the poop, then you need a rake or a scratcher that doesn't tear up the grass, and the farmer goes behind the cow.
What?
And yeah, you just work the manure in. Instead of having these big patties, you work the manure in so it's evenly spread out through the field. You have your own fertilizer, you have your own everything, and it keeps growing good grass, and the cows keep having grass to grow. And if you really want to be fancy, you can deem off a 10 or 15 acre plot, or if you're really small, a 1 acre plot, let your animals roam all over it, poop all over it, pee all over it, and then you disc all that out, and then you grow your vegetables there. And you don't really have to spend a lot of money on fertilizer because the animals have fertilized that ground, and organic matter has built up in that ground. And now you have great vegetables. And then when you're done harvesting the vegetables that you and your family want to eat, you turn your animals loose and let them graze and eat the rest of the vegetables that you left behind.
Now, are they going to go after just the vegetables, or are they going to get all the greenery, the stalks, the leaves, all that?
They're going to eat everything.
Okay.
They'll eat everything in the field. And you let your chickens in, your cows in, your pigs in. And when they're done, all you got to do is go out there and level it, rake it, and it's ready for more vegetables, or it's ready
You don't have to take the tiller through it again?
You can't. You need to make it level.
Okay.
Right? You got to level it out because they're going to have it all rooted up, rutted up. Right? So you want to go in there and till it and rake it and level it so you get a nice even plant. Or you go back in with grass seed and you let grass grow back on, and then you have a very flourished, dense, really good nutrient grass base for the cows to graze on, and you rotate around your farm. As you move your animals, you move your vegetables, and you move your animals, and you move your vegetables. It's 100% regenerative. It pretty much takes care of itself. You have to cultivate, keep things clean, keep your bug pressure down, but it pretty much takes care of itself, right? The way God intended our planet to work. If you go to a vegetable farm that is completely vegetables, it's basically rape, rob, and tillage. That's all it is.
And add more stuff to the dirt.
And supplement and add. So now, in order to grow vegetables properly, after you farm, we call it virgin land. You go into a virgin land that's never been farmed before, and your first 2 crops are what we call bumper crops.
Right.
It's just amazing. The yields, the color, the size.
Oh, so they're good crops.
Oh, they're bumper crops. That's bumper means really good. They're the best things you ever had.
Okay.
And then by your 3rd, 4th crop, you realize, man, my tomatoes were little bitty, or my corn didn't grow, or my collards didn't get big. Well, there ain't nothing left in the soil. You've raped it all. You've pillaged it all. So now, if don't have animals to put on that land and rotate out, now you have to go buy bagged fertilizer or fertilizer in a semi. You have to start spreading fertilizer.
That's a lot.
You have to start doing your soil samples. So every one of these applications take a human, a tractor, a machine, fossil fuels, either gas or diesel, depending on what you're running, man hours, footprint hours, in order to get enough nutrients in the soil. And then you got to check your water, because now there's nothing to hold the water. So when it rains, it leaches down to the bottom.
Yep.
Because on a cow farm, there's so much organic matter, it's like a sponge. It holds the water. Yeah. In a vegetable farm, it's like, what's the thing
A sieve.
A strainer?
A strainer, yeah. A colander.
A colander, like
Yes.
you drain the water off your noodles. It just runs right down to the bottom. There's nothing to hold it. So now you've got to have ditches, and you've got to have water management, and you got to have pumps, and you have to have more fuel, and you have to have more man hours and more footprint hours.
I bet you could turn Florida sand into rich soil.
It would take a lot. It really would. And you would have to have
That's
a lot.
my yard.
You would have to have a lot of animals. You know the best way you could do that? If you wanted, like, you'd lose your grass, but you go over
Burn it.
Burn it.
Burn it.
Slash and burn. Go over to Mount Dora, where the mushroom compost farm is, where they do the mushrooms in Mount Dora. There's a mushroom farm in Mount Dora.
Interesting.
And they have so much extra compost, sometimes they sell it by the truckload, or if they have too much, they just give it away. You just have to check out their site. Go over there to Mount Dora, or find these yards that are composting hurricane debris, and they're just turning it into mulch. All right? It goes back to slash and burn farming that the Indians did, and they used to do down in South America, where they burn down forests and burn down forage and trees and all that. And then once the ash settles, the soil is so good, it's so rich, there's so much nitrogen and phosphorus in it that it grows crazy crops. So what you'd have to do, and you couldn't grow on it for the first year. That's a process. Well, because the nitrogen,
I would just like grass.
well, the nitrogen in it is going to be pretty hot. So nothing's really going to grow. You're going to burn the seeds up until it breaks down. But if you went and got you a tiller from Home Depot, you didn't need a tractor and all that. You just get your walk-behind tiller, and you go over there and you just get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loads, depending on how big your backyard is, and dump that mulch in there, spread it out a couple inches thick, work it into the soil, and do that every 2 or 3 months. At first, you're going to be like, where'd all my mulch go? The soil just ate it up. But over time...
So I don't have to take out the grass or take out the weeds?
No, use the grass. Leave all that there. Dump the mulch on top of it, or the compost on top of it, and then start working it in. And let the grass root and the grass and the weeds and all that be part of your compost, part of your organic matter. Start working that into your soil.
Now, can I use my own compost? Because I've been composting for a couple
if you
years,
have
so I
enough.
have tons. But
you have to
probably
spread it.
not enough for the whole yard.
Yeah, it depends on how much of an area you want to work. If you're just trying to get you like a 10 by 10 garden, just put all your organic matter into that 10 by 10 garden and keep tilling it, keep working it. And then you have
It's
to
about
work
10 by 2.
10 by 2. It's a little bitty backyard.
No, the garden area. The backyard is huge. I'd love to get something growing.
You only got 2 feet?
It's by the fence. It was there when we moved in. My husband
Can you spread
plants
it out to
random
5?
things.
Can you spread it out to 5 foot?
It's not my focus. I got other stuff going on.
All right, whatever. I ain't judging
He
you.
grew an eggplant. It rotted.
Eggplant, yeah. Because there's probably nothing in the soil to sustain it, and it couldn't stay up. It just died from the
It
inside.
fell over, and then, yeah, we had all those storms and stuff.
The plant fell over?
No, just the eggplant. The plant's still standing.
Did y'all not pick it in time? You let it
It
get
was
too
this
big?
big. We're used to organic farm eggplants.
Yes. But if you've never grown an eggplant before and you have crappy soil, that may be the biggest eggplant you're going to get.
It probably was.
Did it fall off or did it break the stem?
I think it broke the stem.
Then you're lacking nutrients, or you have you have a cutworm.
It's probably nutrients because my husband basically planted in sand.
My brain died on me.
So
where was I? Regenerative farming. Your yard?
And my ground is all sand.
Okay, so you could build that up. So here's where I'm going with it. And I'm not picking on vegetable farmers, right? I used to farm 600 acres of nothing but vegetables. All right, we don't farm that many acres of vegetables anymore, but we do farm vegetables, and we work with other farmers that grow vegetables. So I'm not knocking a balanced diet, even though I mainly eat meat. But what I'm getting at is you have to look at the war and how they play out the war and what they talk about the war to determine the sides. Like you could almost relate this to the war in Ukraine and Russia. And they only feed you one side, right? The side that perpetuates, well, right, is that the right word?
I'm lost.
The side that provides them more access to money.
Okay.
All right, more money and more control. So the war on beef is about money and control. They can't control a bunch of free-willed, free Americans that have guns, that hunt, that do our own processing, that know how to break down an animal, that understand where meat comes from, and we ain't scared to raise animals and get the meat that God gave us from the animals. But if they convince us all that animals are bad and convince enough of us that they start banning and restricting animal growth, and then they push us into a vegetarian-only society, not only do we get weaker and smaller and easier to control, then they control what they feed us. They control how we eat, our protein sources, and it puts all the money in their pocket and all the power in their pocket. There's no danger. I've never met a dangerous vegetarian.
No, they're gentle people.
All right? There's no fear from the government about vegetarians taking over and demanding their rights and their freedoms. Most vegetarians just tuck tail and hide. Right? It's pretty much how it works.
I mean, I guess.
Or I know.
Okay.
I know a bunch of them. I've seen how they act in public. All right? Ain't no vegetarian out there beating their chest full of testosterone. Unless they're taking supplements. Anyways, so just keep your mind open. And I know with Trump in the office coming up in January, a lot of things are changing. But there's also a lot of things right now, if you're not paying attention to, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are still very actively with Bill Gates trying to push the Green New Deal through as fast as possible before January.
Well, they've only got a month left.
But
Of course they're pushing it.
They're trying to get this stuff done to make it harder on Trump in January. So stay focused in what's going on. If you hear things in the news, pay attention to them. If you got an opportunity to have a voice, if there's getting signatures or anything going on in your communities, especially out in California, if you're listening, be active. Just because we won the election don't mean it's time to lay down yet and just always focus on celebrating. There's a lot that can happen damaging-wise between now and January, so stay active. When we get right back, New World Screwworm. Almost like they made that name up, but it's a real thing. It's a flesh-eating worm that can hurt both cows and humans. Stick around. We'll be right back.